Hey, Scott from aristagrub.com here, and no, that's still not really a thing. And just so you understand, I have another channel that is corncob pipe related, and my wife and I have a website called aristacob.com, and I'm so accustomed to starting those videos like that, and maybe someday there will really be a blog or something that will be Aristagrub, so I keep saying it. So it's been a while, and what's new with me is I after having a lot of success with a low carb diet, had my knees replaced and kind of let myself go as as happens, and I put on about 20 pounds and decided, all right, it's time to get it off, and have been dabbling a little bit more into keto. Now, I've been doing low carb for years, but my son has had tremendous success with keto, and so I'm dabbling. But one of the things that I've always missed on either diet is I'm really big into baked goods, and I like sandwiches and things like that. So I have been looking at recipes online for making keto bread. Most recently, several recipes for dinner rolls or hamburger buns. Not sure if it's sunlight or not is best for you. And so this particular one, I'll put a link down below to two videos. The first video is one that I've had a lot of success with, but I've had an issue with, and I was hoping that this would be resolved by this recipe. And that is, it's a very simple recipe that calls for almond flour, psyllium husk, and we'll get back to that in a second, some egg whites, some baking powder, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and some egg whites, and boiling water. Now, the boiling water is there to bind everything together and to get the psyllium husk to do its magic. So what is psyllium husk? Well, you may know it as Metamucil. You may know it as a fiber that you mix with water that works as a laxative. And it's basically just a soluble fiber that, for the most part, will pass through you. And, one of the things that we do is we calculate net carbs as we subtract out the fiber from the carb total to give us an idea of what the effects of whatever it is that we're eating would have on us. And so, when we don't have real wheat flour in a baked good, what we're lacking is gluten. And so we're not getting that kind of stretch and hold that you get from gluten and flour. And that's what the psyllium husk is doing. Well, here's the problem with the recipe that I just described to you. That psyllium husk, even after you cook it, remains kind of gummy. And I've, after baking it, lowered the temperature down to 220 and basically dehydrated the rolls, and that helped. But this recipe that I discovered last night uses a little less of the almond flour and adds into it flaxseed flour, which is a little bit weird. We'll talk about that as well, and less of the psyllium husk. It also adds in coconut flour, which is very good at absorbing water. And so the goal here is to get a bread that's similar to what I had with that first recipe, but that maybe is less gummy. So I did two things after they were done baking. I turned the oven off and pulled the buns off of the cooking sheet and laid them on the shelf grates in the oven. Those are also called racks if you're using your full vocabulary. Because when they're sitting there on the cookie sheet, as they cool, they'll want to get soft in the bottom, or condensation builds up. And that's what this one has done. This one then continued in the oven as it was cooling down, and continued to dry out just a bit. But I can tell you, just from touching it, it's still a bit moist because it feels cool to touch, and that interior is a little bit sticky. I also pulled a couple of them out of the oven when they were completed and laid them face down on the same oven rack as the oven cooled down. And I can tell you absolutely that has dried them out just a touch. So here's what I'm going to do for lunch. I've gone through the drive-thru at Zaxby's, which is a chicken wing place if you don't have Zaxby's near you. And one of the things that they offer there are grilled chicken fingers. And so I've purchased some of those. All right, as you see here. And we're just going to put together a little chicken sandwich. I also got some mayonnaise if you're so inclined. And let's put that on here. I have one of those little steering wheel tables. If you have to eat in your car, as I do, they're really handy. Okay, got a fork. And this is the one that I just cut, so it's a little bit moist. We'll add a couple of these fingers here. And there we go. So see if we can get a thumbnail pic. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's give this a try. So here's the downside of the flaxseed. And flaxseed meal is what we're using. It's a ground up flaxseed. It has a slight fishy taste to it. And I don't know if everybody picks up on that, but I certainly do. And I'm getting that now with this. Just an ever so slight aftertaste of fish. Probably could be counteracted if I had something on here, maybe something spicy or something that, it was a little bit more powerful in taste. But that's good. But definitely getting a little bit of that gumminess that I commented about. Let's get some mayonnaise on this one. But I guess I can go ahead and tell you the bottom line on this. And the bottom line is, if you're not able to eat bread due to your diet, for carbs or for other reasons, this is not bad. It's not bad. And the ingredients are, I don't know. I mean, anytime you're buying something like coconut flour, almond flour, or anything that's bizarre and outside of the norm, it's going to be more expensive. But if I were to go and go to a health food store or someplace and look for a low carb bread or roll, it's going to be expensive as well. All right, let's give this one a try. Tough piece of chicken there. Okay. It definitely improved the texture by slicing the bread in half, laying those face down on the rack, and leaving them in the warm oven. Absolutely improved the taste. I cooked these last night, left them in the oven overnight. I don't know how long they really needed to be in there. Maybe if I'd left the oven on at a lower temperature, maybe 250 or lower, maybe for another hour, that would make sense to do that. But that's a good solution. So if you want to check this recipe out, as I said, I'll link to them below. The first one I think is going to be worth going back to, the one that doesn't have the flaxseed, doesn't have the coconut, but I'm thinking that I would reduce the psyllium husk. That one's got 5 tablespoons, and the other one has less than 3 tablespoons, and the texture's fine on this for me. So I'll keep experimenting. And eventually I'll share with you my final conclusions. But that's it for now. Make it a great day.